Hey everyone, welcome back. I have the Apex unboxed and I am ready to open it up and put in this 4 terabyte drive immediately because that's what I do. So I'm going to open it up. I'm going to clone it with my offline cloner because I've been using that for years, and to me, that's the way. That's the best way. So the reason why I want to clone it is because the Onex console app, everything else is just, it's loaded the way they want it to be loaded. If you need drivers, if something's not working properly, go to the official Onexplayer Discord, go into the Apex channel, go into the pins at the very top corner. That's going to have the driver links in there in case you want to do a fresh install, or if there's a problem with something with your device. That's going to be how you're going to be able to do that. So yeah, you could swap this and then just fresh install everything, but for me, offline cloning has always been the best way. I basically keep the drive that's in here right now in exactly factory condition. If I ever needed to return it for warranty or anything like that, which I void it as soon as I open this, but hopefully there's no problems with this. We're going to hope that there's going to be no problems. So I'm going to open it up and swap that out, but either way I'd have the factory drive and it would be ready to go. If I sold it to somebody else, I could swap that back in and they would have the factory fresh install in there. I wouldn't have to worry about wiping my data or anything like that, or sacrificing my 4 terabyte drive that's worth an obscene amount of money right now because NVMe's and memory in general is just worth crazy amounts of money. So let's swap this out and see what that looks like. Now to start off, I have the offline cloner here. This one specifically, I can't find it anymore. I don't think it's available anymore, but I'll link one in the description that does work. Basically, you put your target drive, so that's going to be my new 4 terabyte, and then your source drive, which is S, so I've sharpied it to make it just a little bit easier to see, which is the one that's going to be in here. That's going to just clone it back and forth. So I will clone that once I get this out, and essentially I just power this up, push some buttons, and it copies the whole drive without ever having to turn this on. Now, speaking of turning this on, you always want to make sure that you turn it on. And this power cord is so short for the factory one. I should have pulled out my Slim Q, but it's so short that I'm kind of stuck really close to the edge here. So you want to just power it on and make sure that it works first. Before you open it up and get right in there, just make sure that your device is actually functioning, it actually powers on. And once you're good there, then we can power it off and then start working on this. Now, because this doesn't have a battery in it, it's going to make it a little bit easier to get in here. So I'm looking forward to that part. So once you have it on far enough, you can hold down the power button. And when we do that, we can fully power it off. So now I can unplug from that really short cable. Again, Slim Q's where it's at. That's 10 feet. And we can start working on this. So here I have just some foam pads, and this is just to add some lift so that we're not putting pressure on the actual joysticks. So when I'm working on any of these devices, that's the first thing that I do is mark it there. Actually, before I get started, if you're wondering if your device has a film on it, it does. It's pre-applied on there. I'm going to try to just show you the edge here. It's right along the edge. I can see it just ever so slightly right on the corner here. Here, you see that right there? That's the film, that little angle there. So if you're wondering if your screen has a film on it, it does. So if you were going to put a glass screen protector, if they come out with one, which they should eventually on the Onexplayer store, you'd want to peel that film off first and then apply the new screen protector. Okay, let's get into this. So I've got a spudger, I've got some screwdrivers. I'm just going to pull this little tab off for the liquid cooling version. So if you don't have the liquid cooling version, it might look a little bit different here, but you can see that there's some screws here. So I will have to get into that. But I'm going to pull the battery cover off just to have it off to the side as well. Stick that over there. And what I'm going to need to do is lift this edge up. So you see how it kind of just, yeah, there you go. Kind of just gave me that. It's coming off really easy. The spudgers are so nice, so easy to maneuver with. So if you can get yourself a flat spudger like this is going to make it a heck of a lot easier. So let me just be gentle going along the edge, just in case there's something that's going to catch. So I'm going to just keep going on the edge here. And gently catch these clips. So there's that one that went. Great. Don't put too much pressure. You don't want to crack this or anything. You see how there's a little clip that pokes out each time? Just want to gently just help that get out because there's a clip on each side that's needs a little bit of help coming out. So again, take your time with this. There we go. There we go. Oh, got a little O-ring that just shot out. Assuming that's from the DC port, but I could be wrong. There we go. Actually, it's probably from here. Yeah, right there. So that came from right around here. And we've got this little piece in there too we gotta be careful about. So I'm gonna just stick that off to the side for now. I'm gonna actually pull this off just to keep it on the edge. And then let's take these out. So there's my buttons. Plus was on this side, minus is on this side. And then this one we can take out. Can we take that out? Maybe we'll just leave that for now. Let's just leave that one for now. Okay, so we've got 2 screws here. We've got 3 in the middle here, so 5 screws all together. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab my screwdriver. The bit that I have in is a PH0, and I'll unscrew this. And I'm gonna start a little pile on the side here. Having one of these anti-static mats is super handy for things like this. And grab this. You'll notice that I have a MagSafe ring on here. If you've watched the unboxing video with all the accessories that I went through, I did stick that on there. Okay, last one from the top. Now we can do these 2 screws right here for the liquid cooling module. So I'll put those up on the side. There we go. Oh, try not to lose that screw. There. Okay, so now that we have that undone, it doesn't look like we have any more at the top. We just have these, and then this is going to be the little warranty sticker. So you can see as soon as you take that off, they know that you've been in here. So just be mindful of that. Not that they don't already know that I've been in here, because I literally have a video of me doing this. All right. Sticker here. We're going to just nicely peel that one up. And I'm going to use the spudger so that I don't scrape anything on the actual device. There we go. Just nice and gentle. Okay. And I can catch that last one. Don't know if these screws are going to fall out. Let's find out. Okay, yeah. One of them came out. I lost another one of those. That's fine. That can go off to the side. Okay, so bottom screw does come out. It's just a little bit stuck. Not too bad. Let's catch that there, catch that there. Put that one here, and I'll catch the last one. Be very careful if you're using any metal. You don't want to scratch anything. Okay, that one just doesn't want to come straight out. That's fine. It's not a big deal. It'll come out when it's ready. With a little bit of motivation. Okay. So that's all of them. I'm going to actually undo this one too. Because I don't want that to get snagged. So I'm just using a little pin that I use to check for soldering, so I'm going to take that out because I don't know if that's going to snag on the inside. Best to just pull it out. Okay, so if I'm undoing this, we want to, actually I'm not going to, won't check that just yet. I'm going to just see what's going to pull. So this is going to pull, this is going to pull, this is going to pull, and that's going to pull. So basically just lifting these up and releasing the pressure on there. Okay. There we go. There we go. Making progress. I can do that to the other side, hopefully. So all I'm doing is just wedging this in just ever so slightly and giving it a little bit of a pull. Let's just loosen up these again. There we go. There we go. That's good. Okay. Feel this one's still a little bit tight on this side, so I'll give it a little bit more assistance. There. So that should give me enough room on this side, and then same thing on this side. There. Okay, so I need to be careful because we have this liquid cooling piece here, and so I don't want to pull on any of the washers. It's very tight on that. On the bottom here, I'm just going to try to give it a little bit of assistance. There's just right here that it's still clipped. Don't use any metal tools on here. That's going to wreck the plastic. So this is way too expensive of a device to be like messing around with metal. So just take your time with a plastic tool. There we go. That's it. That's the spot. Okay. I can feel that something's connected, so let's just flip that over. There we go. That's the battery connection. So we shouldn't need to take that off. If I just shimmy this up just a little bit, I should be able to work without messing with that. Okay. So the NVMe drive should be under the fans here. And this one right here, so I can see it. I can see it right underneath this. So if I go ahead and just lift this up, I'm going to have an easier time getting to the screw right here for the NVMe. So I can go ahead and pull that up and just let that sit off the side for a little bit here. Take the fan screw off, stick that onto this side. There we go. And then I'm just going to flip this up. And with that, I should be able to get this fully out. There we go. So that was actually pretty easy. The hardest part is going to be just getting that cover off gently. So this has just like a copper heatsink on it right now, just like a light one. I have one already on, like a little copper one already on my 4 terabyte drive. Now I don't think that an actual heatsink will fit in here just by, yeah, it won't. It'll push the fan too much up. I can see that there's like a clear line. I don't know if you can catch that, but there's like a clear line right above where the drive is right here, where it sits. And so you're probably better off not putting an actual heatsink on here. The most I would do is like I have here. So this is like, you know, a little graphene heatsink on top, a copper one. So you could take the one that's on here right now and just peel that off and put it on here, but essentially it's the same thing. So I'm going to take the offline cloner now, and I can slide this off. And here's my source drive, target drive. That's going to be my 4 terabyte that I have locked and loaded into here. Get that little rubber thing in there. Again, depending on the kind of offline cloner that you get, if you do get one, it might be a little bit different of a process here, but I'm going to slide this back on because this is like a cooling fan for it, and slot that in. Now I'll show you how quick and easy this is to get going. So all I do is turn it on. Both drives will light up blue when it's ready to go, and then I can hold down this little button and then push the button. There you go. And once it gets all the way to the end, then my drive is good to go, and we'll continue on this setup. My clone drive is ready to go. So I'm going to go ahead and open this back up and slot it in. Pull this ribbon back, and then I have my screw right off on the side here. And I can seat that back down. Okay. Now, again, if we look from like a height standpoint, I don't know if you can see that too well, but essentially the drive is just right where the fan sits. So again, I don't think we want to put an actual heat sink on this, but I'll go ahead and press this one back down. So make sure it snaps just like it just did. This wire, I'm going to just feed it right on the outside of the screw so that it doesn't pinch anything. Just make sure nothing gets caught. Okay. And then I've got my 2 screws on the side here. All right, now before we fully try to close this, you want to make sure that all of these are good. So if this isn't clicking, you want to just kind of adjust it into a position where it is clicking. So just be careful. So see how this one just stopped, okay? So I'm just going to give it a little bit of a lift and a pull back, because I want to put it in a position where it's going to be clicking again. So just be careful, because you don't want to put this back together and then have where your controller's not grabbing quite where it should be. So it looks like it's in a good spot now. Just kind of give it pressure this way and like lift it up and give it pressure that way if it's not clicking. So now that I've got it clicking, I can go ahead and attempt to close this. You want to make sure that the cable from the bottom here, the battery, is tucked in around. So you see how this is the port for the ByWin card? We don't want that, like this, actually getting in the way. So I'm going to just let's just pull this off for a sec. I'm going to tuck this back under here. So right under this little edge here, I want to tuck this back in. Oh, this is just a little tricky. Let's go this way. That's better. Okay. So tuck that over. And just make sure that that's not blocking that port. So I'm going to start with the bottom. And you can see that my port is not blocked. So grab everything down there. And then I'll just keep applying a little bit of pressure. And then I'm just going to work this over here gently, because we have those O-rings that we want to be very gentle with. This piece, you want to make sure that it lines up in these 2 little holes. So there's one, there's one. We got click action. That's perfect. It'll be a little bit more tricky once we start to put the plate back on. But I'm going to snap this so that we at least have that connection going. And before I get too far, because I don't want to, fully put this back together just yet, I want to make sure that the drive is working. So I'm going to plug this in to power, and I'm using a longer cable this time around. And I'm going to go ahead and turn this on and just make sure that it powers on. And you can see these are the thumb grips that I put on. So this is the PS5 Skull & Co. Savage Raven grips. And these ones do fit quite well and tuck under there nicely. So as long as we get to the boot up screen, we're in a good spot and we can keep putting this back together. But again, let's just make sure first before we go too far, because if something's not working, then we're going to have to take everything apart again, and that would suck. So you want to make sure that your drive is working before you go further. All right, so it's booted up. That's a good sign. Now I can go ahead and press this down again to power it off. Just keep holding. And we're good. Disconnect from power. Okay. So now we can keep going on this. So first I am going to just make sure that all of these are in the right spot. Again, when you're screwing this in, just make sure. So I know that that one's good. I know that one's good. Now this one, I can feel that there's a stop there. So it's actually not seated correctly. So if you look, this is open. So I actually have to go back in now. Yeah, let's leave that like this. And then I can go ahead and just separate this one. There we go. Okay. So all I'm doing is just making sure that the end is underneath. So now I can see that it is. So this little hand needs to go underneath where the trigger is. And then now I can snap that back into place on the side. So if your triggers aren't working after, that's how you fix that. Okay, so again, these are good. And I can go back to putting these back in. This is scary. This is a little scary only because of that giant holes, you know, all these giant holes in here that the screws could fall through. So again, take your time. We have 5 screws to connect up here. Don't over tighten them. Once you feel it tight enough, just leave it like that. All right, that's good. So all of these are back in. I'm going to go ahead and put these ones back in now. That's good. I'm going to go to the bottom. Make sure that's all snapped in. So you should hear that snap if you've got it in the right way. Okay, get this back in. Okay, stick this in here. If you've got one of these, this is super handy. It has like a phone pin, so see it just pops out. All right, we'll get that back in there. All right, now let's work on these buttons. So these 2 things came off, these little washers, and I'm not sure exactly where they came from, but I'm guessing that one of them is from here. Okay, masking tape. This is the way. Okay, so if I look at this, volume down should be on this side. Yeah, volume up on that side. Let's just tape this ever so slightly over there so that it stays. Look, it's staying. This is the way. This is the way. It's going to work this time. Okay, so position this on here for the power button. And then we've got, you know, a little O-ring that I left there on here. Don't know what I'm doing with this O-ring. I mean, maybe it goes on there too. I don't know. You think 2 go on there? That can't be right. Right? I don't know. Let's try it. Let's just stick them both there. Hopefully that's the right spot for those. Okay. Now let's start to push this back in. Oh, crap. Just kidding. We'll try again. This one we got to be extra careful with because this power button just wants to keep popping back up. So if we make sure that it's on there, we'll be good, but if it moves ever so slightly, it seems to just come off. Okay, so we need to start going down first because of this little edge. This is definitely the trickiest part of the install. Putting this back together. Okay, there we go. I've hooked that one. See, I'm just hooking them each side, giving it a little bit of twist. Okay. Did this work? Oh yeah. Oh yes, genius. Okay, so do that. Do that with tape. That's the way to do this. This is the big brain way to do this instead of struggling trying to make it work by moving it back and forth. Okay, this one will be next. Come on. Get both of those in there. It's easy to say just do the reverse to put it back on, but that's not as simple. You know, it's easier to take it apart than it is to put it back together. Okay. One side at a time. Delicate pressure. Okay. Okay. We got it. Oh, enough of me shaking the table like crazy trying to get this in. All right, we're good. Everything's good. It looks good. Okay, all the buttons work. I didn't mess anything up. All right, we can put this cover back on. We can stick this cover back on. Yeah, there we go. This is the way. Okay, and we got the thumbsticks. So that's going to be how you're going to swap this out with, you know, a 4 terabyte drive or whatever drive you want to put in here. Yes, I do label it, so this is where my factory one is going to go in that box now. And when you're doing this and you boot it all up, because it's going to take me a while to set this all up, you're going to want to format the last portion of the drive. So because I cloned it, so in the case that you're cloning it, I cloned a 2 terabyte drive into a 4 terabyte drive. So that means that I have 2 terabytes that are unallocated, and I can either partition that as those 2 terabytes or I can merge them together. But if you want to mess around with that, I'll leave a link in the video description, and that's going to be to my G1 video from the Onexplayer. It's going to be the same process to maneuver those, you know, partitions, and if you want to join one of them. But I would recommend keeping the operating system on its own smaller partition and then keeping your games on its own partition for the games drive. And the reason for that is if you need to do any resetting with your operating system or you have any issues with it, you don't have to re-download all your games. They're still on a separate partition on the drive. So that's what I would recommend doing. Hopefully this was helpful for you. If it was, let me know down in the comments. Hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. Take care till the next one.